Before humans, before animals like us, before intelligence ever wondered what it was, the Earth already had a long memory. Not a memory of thoughts, not a memory of stories, a memory written in stone. The planet formed from chaos. Dust circled a young star, drawn together by gravity, colliding again and again. Heat built with every impact. The surface of the Earth was not solid for long. It melted, broke apart, reformed, and melted again. There was no stable ground to stand on, only motion and force. The sky was thick and heavy. No blue, no clouds as we know them. Gases rose from the molten surface and stayed there. The air was hostile, toxic, unbreathable. Lightning flashed constantly through the atmosphere, discharging energy into a world that could not yet hold life. The Earth turned like this for a very long time. Nothing lived. Nothing watched. Nothing waited. Then, slowly, the planet began to cool. Not suddenly, not evenly. Rain fell for ages. Endless rain. It poured onto hot rock, hissed into steam, then fell again. Over time, so vast it defies intuition, water gathered. Basins filled. Low places became seas. The first oceans formed. They were not calm. They were dark and restless, heated from below by the still active planet. The seafloor cracked and shifted. Through those cracks, heat and minerals poured upward, creating towering vents where hot water met cold. These oceans were not empty. They were rich with chemistry. Carbon dissolved into the water. Hydrogen bonded and broke apart. Nitrogen drifted through reactions. Metals leached from rock. Molecules formed, collided, separated, and reformed again. Nothing directed this. Nothing intended it. The planet was simply doing what physics allowed. And because the planet had time, almost unlimited time, some arrangements lasted longer than others. Certain molecules proved more stable. Certain combinations held together. Certain reactions repeated themselves instead of stopping. At first, these were not alive. They were just patterns. Chemical loops that fed on energy and raw material. Systems that produced more of themselves than they destroyed. When conditions were right, they persisted. When conditions shifted, they collapsed. Most collapsed. The oceans were full of failures. But failure did not matter. There was no cost. No memory of loss. The planet continued to experiment simply by existing. And then, somewhere in that vast chemical chaos, something crossed a threshold. A system formed that could make imperfect copies of itself. Not deliberately, not reliably, but often enough. This was the turning point. Because once something can copy itself, the past begins to matter. Copies were never exact. Small differences crept in. Some copies lasted longer than others. Some broke apart faster. Some interacted with their environment more successfully. There was no competition in the way we imagine it. No struggle. No urgency. Just persistence versus disappearance. Over unimaginable spans of time, self-replicating chemistry became more common. Still fragile. Still temporary. Still entirely dependent on the environment. But now, the oceans contained systems that carried information forward. Not thoughts, not plans, just molecular instructions. And then came boundaries. Certain molecules naturally formed membranes. Thin, flexible barriers that separated inside from outside. When self-replicating chemistry became enclosed within these membranes, something new appeared. Not life as we picture it, but containment. Inside these tiny bubbles, reactions could continue without being immediately disrupted by the surrounding ocean. Energy could be managed. Materials could be concentrated. The first proto-cells existed like this, fragile, drifting compartments. Most failed quickly. Membranes broke. Chemistry leaked out. Replication stopped. But occasionally, a compartment held together just long enough to divide. And when it did, the division carried its chemistry forward. The first true cells emerged gradually, not in a moment. They were simple beyond description. No nucleus, no internal structures, no movement of their own, just a boundary, and chemistry inside it, and the ability to persist. These early cells floated through the oceans, carried by currents they could not sense. They did not search for food. They did not avoid danger. They reacted only through chemistry. If energy was available, reactions continued. If energy stopped, the cell failed. There was no pain, no fear, no awareness, just existence. The cell's goal, if the word can even apply, was to remain intact long enough to divide. And division changed everything. Because now the ocean was no longer just chemistry. It was inhabited. Cells multiplied. Slowly at first, then steadily. Entire regions of the sea filled with microscopic life, invisible from above, unremarkable to any observer who did not yet exist. Each cell was alone. There were no communities, no cooperation, no communication. Yet together, these cells began to change the planet in subtle ways, altering local chemistry, cycling materials, creating new reactions that had never existed before. The Earth was no longer just a place where chemistry happened. It was becoming a living system. For a very long time, nothing more happened. No sudden leaps, no complexity explosions, just cells dividing, failing, dividing again. The majority of Earth's history passes here, at this level. Single-celled life dominates the planet for billions of years. Every ocean, every shoreline, every hidden pocket of water contains life so small and simple that awareness is still an impossible concept. Yet this simplicity is deceptive. Because once cells exist, once information can be copied, stored, and altered, the future becomes open. Evolution has begun. Not evolution toward intelligence. Not evolution toward humanity. Just evolution toward persistence. This is the quietest chapter in the story of life. No creatures to marvel at. No behaviors to dramatize. No minds to reflect. Only the first successful answer to the question, can chemistry last? And the answer, slowly, silently, became yes. This is where the story must pause. Because everything that comes later, complex cells, bodies, senses, thought, depends entirely on this fragile beginning. A membrane, a reaction, a copy. Life does not know it has started, but it has.